Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
Have you ever felt like something extraordinary is waiting for you, just beyond fear? What if the real risk isn't failure, but never trying at all? And what if the people who change their lives aren't the smartest, but the boldest? Most people live lives of quiet desperation. They settle. They hold back. Not because they lack talent or opportunity, but because they're afraid of failure, afraid of being rejected, afraid of stepping into the unknown. But here's one of the most powerful lessons I've learned. Everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear. Let me tell you a story. Years ago, I met a young man working at a department store. It was a decent job, stable, respectable, nothing wrong with it. But every time we spoke, his eyes lit up when he talked about a different future. He had a dream, starting his own business. He had ideas, passion, a plan. But year after year, he stayed right there at that same store. Why? Fear. He was afraid to make the leap. Afraid of what might go wrong. Afraid of the bold move that could change everything. Then something shifted. He came to a realization. The pain of regret would be far greater than the pain of failure. So he took a deep breath, used his savings, and left his job. He didn't wait for the stars to align. He started his business. Was it smooth sailing? No. Were there challenges? Absolutely. But 5 years later, when I ran into him again, everything had changed. He had built a thriving company with 23 employees. His life had completely transformed. Life had rewarded his boldness. Now, let me be clear. I'm not telling you to quit your job tomorrow with no strategy. That's not boldness. That's recklessness. What I am saying is this. If you want extraordinary results, you must be willing to take extraordinary action. Most people never get what they truly want out of life. Not because they're incapable, but because they never begin. They're always preparing, always planning, always waiting for the perfect moment. But here's the truth. There is no perfect moment. There's only now. And now is all you have. Being bold means acting while others are still thinking. It means raising your hand while others are still weighing the pros and cons. It means saying yes to opportunity while others are saying, let me think about it. And in that gap, that tiny space between action and hesitation, fortunes are made, lives are transformed, destinies are fulfilled. Now I want you to pause for a second and consider this. Think about the most successful people you know or have heard about. What do they all have in common? I'll tell you, they were bold enough to begin, bold enough to keep going, and bold enough to become who they were meant to be. They were also bold enough to keep learning, to keep growing, even when things got hard. Take Walt Disney, for example. Did you know he was once fired from a newspaper for supposedly lacking imagination? Just let that sink in. The very man who would go on to create Mickey Mouse, launch Disneyland, and build one of the most beloved entertainment empires in the world was told he wasn't imaginative enough. But Walt didn't let that rejection define him. He didn't let it become his identity. Instead, he turned it into fuel. He chose to be bold. And because of that choice, generations of children and adults around the world have experienced joy through the magic of his creations. Or think about Colonel Sanders. He didn't launch Kentucky Fried Chicken until he was 65 years old. When most people are slowing down and thinking about retirement, he was just getting started. He packed up his chicken recipe, hit the road, and began pitching it to restaurants across the country. He slept in his car. He faced rejection after rejection, but he didn't stop. Why? Because he was bold. He kept going, and eventually, his boldness paid off. Now, I'm not sharing these stories to impress you. I'm sharing them to impress something upon you. That boldness isn't some rare quality reserved for the chosen few. It's not something you need a special degree for. It doesn't require the perfect resume or a flawless background. Boldness is a decision. It's a daily choice, one that each of us can make. People often ask me, Jim, how do I become more bold? And I tell them it's like building a muscle. You don't walk into a gym for the first time and try to bench press 300 pounds. That would be reckless. You start small. You work your way up. You build strength 1 rep at a time. The same principle applies to boldness. Maybe for you, being bold today means speaking up in a meeting where you'd normally stay quiet. Maybe it means picking up the phone and calling that potential client you've been nervous to reach out to. Maybe it means finally registering for that class or workshop you've kept putting off. Whatever it is, start there. Take that one small bold step today. Then take another tomorrow. And before long, boldness won't be something you're trying to do. It'll be a part of who you are. And here's something else you need to remember. Boldness isn't the absence of fear. It's the willingness to take action even when fear is present. Every bold person I've ever met still feels fear. The difference? They don't let it stop them. They acknowledge fear. They respect it, but they don't hand over the keys. They don't let it dictate their choices. Because they've learned to act, not in the absence of fear, but in spite of it. I once heard someone say, "Fear," someone once said, "is the tax you pay on your dreams." And I believe that's absolutely true. If you want something you've never had before, you must be willing to do something you've never done. That usually means staring fear in the face and choosing to move forward anyway. So let's talk about what actually happens when you choose boldness. Because life truly does reward the bold, but maybe not always in the ways you expect. The first reward of boldness is growth. When you step out of your comfort zone, something powerful begins to happen. You stretch yourself. You discover abilities you didn't even know you had. You develop skills that once seemed far beyond your reach. Whether your bold action leads to success or not, the personal growth that comes from trying, that stays with you. It becomes part of your character, your confidence, your identity. The second reward is opportunity. Bold people stand out. They draw opportunities to them like magnets. Why? Because in a world where most people play it safe, the bold are different. They're visible. They're memorable. They get invited into rooms others only dream of. They're the ones who are considered for promotions, partnerships, big projects, and possibilities that timid people never even know exist. The third reward is respect, both self-respect and the respect of others. There's something incredibly dignifying about taking bold action toward your dreams. Even if you don't hit the target, you earn your own respect. You look in the mirror and know that you had the courage to step up. And that matters. Others notice too. Even if they don't say it out loud, people admire those who try, those who dare. The fourth reward is influence. Your boldness doesn't just affect your own life. It has a ripple effect. When you choose to be bold, you give others permission to do the same. You inspire people simply by showing what's possible. You become an example, a living, breathing reminder that it's okay to go after what you want. You become a light that helps guide others toward their own goals. And yes, the fifth reward is results, the tangible outcomes we often chase. The job promotion, the successful business, the completed goal. But I put this last for a reason. Because even if you don't get the exact result you were hoping for, the other rewards, the growth, the opportunities, the respect, the inspiration, those things make the journey more than worth it. Let me give you a story that brings this to life. I have a friend who once auditioned for a major Broadway show. This was her dream. She spent months preparing, working with vocal coaches, fine-tuning every detail, practicing until she could perform it flawlessly in her sleep. When the big day arrived, she showed up ready. She was bold. She gave it everything she had. She walked out of that audition room knowing she had held nothing back. And guess what? She didn't get the part. Now, most people would look at that outcome and call it a failure. Some might look at her story and label it a failure. But let me tell you what really happened next. One of the producers, deeply impressed by her performance, not just her talent, but her boldness and willingness to fully commit, recommended her for a different production. That one opportunity opened a new door. And that door led to more connections. Those connections opened even more doors, eventually leading her to build a thriving career in theater. It didn't unfold the way she originally imagined, but in many ways, it turned out even better. That's the beautiful and sometimes surprising truth about boldness. Life doesn't always reward the bold in the exact way you expect, but it often rewards you in a way that's better than what you had planned. Now, before we go further, I want to be clear about something important. Being bold doesn't mean being reckless. It doesn't mean acting without thought or leaping without looking. Boldness without wisdom can be dangerous. That's not what I'm encouraging here. Real boldness is thoughtful. It's intentional. It's strategic. You don't jump off a cliff and call that courage. That's just foolishness. True boldness is like skydiving with a parachute, but only after you've trained, studied, and prepared. So, how do you develop this kind of wise, grounded boldness? Let me share with you a few principles that have guided me for years and that I believe can help you too. First, get clear on what you want. Boldness without clarity is like a ship without a rudder, drifting, powerful, but without direction. You need to define your goals. Understand your values. Visualize the kind of life you want to create. Ask yourself, what truly matters to me? What kind of impact do I want to make? What legacy do I want to leave behind? When you gain clarity on these questions, boldness becomes far more natural because now you know what you're being bold for. Second, educate yourself. Bold people are almost always learners. They're the ones reading books, attending seminars, seeking out mentors, asking questions, and surrounding themselves with people who stretch their thinking. They're not afraid to admit what they don't know because they're committed to growing. And here's the truth. The more you learn, the more confident you become. And with confidence comes the courage to take action, even when the path isn't fully clear. Third, start small and build momentum. Boldness is like a muscle. It grows with use. Don't wait around for some dramatic, life-altering moment to suddenly summon your courage. Practice boldness in the everyday. Say the thing you've been holding back. Make the call you've been putting off. Share the idea you've kept to yourself. Each small, bold decision builds your confidence. And with every step, you prepare yourself for even bigger moments of courage when they come. Fourth, anticipate resistance. Bold actions rarely go uncontested. People who consistently demonstrate boldness aren't naive about the road ahead. They understand that challenges are inevitable and resistance is part of the process. But here's the difference. They expect it. They're not thrown off or discouraged when things don't go smoothly. Instead, they anticipate the bumps, plan for detours, and build the mental strength to keep going when the going gets tough. They prepare not just with strategy, but with resilience. They develop a kind of emotional armor, one that doesn't block them from feeling, but protects them from quitting. They understand that obstacles don't mean stop, they mean step up. And so they face challenges not with panic, but with poise. And here's another critical piece. Boldness becomes far more attainable when you're not walking the path alone. Find your support system. Surround yourself with people who uplift you, who genuinely believe in your vision, and who encourage your progress even when you stumble. These are the people who remind you of your strength on the days you forget it yourself. Their belief in you can become a mirror, reflecting back your own potential when you're too tired to see it clearly. Treasure those people, and just as importantly, strive to be that person for someone else. Boldness is contagious. When you champion someone else's dream, you strengthen your own courage in the process. Now let's shift to something just as essential, conviction. To be bold, you must truly believe in what you're doing. You must feel it deep in your bones, why it matters, who it will help, and how it connects to who you are. But here's the hard truth. Many people struggle with boldness, not because they don't have a plan, but because deep down, they don't believe they're worthy of success. They carry silent doubts that whisper, who am I to chase this dream? And so they shrink, they hesitate, they settle for less. Not because they lack ability, but because they've never fully claimed their worth. But hear me clearly, you are worthy. You do deserve success. And yes, you absolutely have what it takes. Not because you've always done everything right. Not because your path has been easy, but because you're human. And that alone gives you access to limitless growth and possibility. Your past doesn't define your future unless you choose to let it. Your present circumstances don't place a ceiling over your potential unless you believe they do. And even your greatest failures don't disqualify you unless you let them stop you. Life rewards the bold because boldness is a living declaration of belief. Every time you take action in the face of fear, you're saying to the world and to yourself, I believe this is possible. I believe I am capable. I believe I am enough. And life, it often answers that belief with unexpected opportunities. Over the years, I've noticed something fascinating. Two people can be presented with the exact same opportunity, yet end up with vastly different outcomes. Why? Because of how they respond. The bold step forward and say, why not me? The timid hesitate and wonder, why me? Let me share a story that brings this truth to life. I once met I remember a woman who attended one of my seminars years ago. She was in her 40s, working a job that didn't excite her, simply going through the motions day after day. During a break, we had a brief conversation. She shared something deeply personal, She had always dreamed of being a writer. Since childhood, she had been crafting stories, pouring her heart onto the page. But for decades, she had never let a single soul read them. Why? Fear. She was afraid of being rejected, of hearing that she wasn't good enough, afraid that her deepest passion would be dismissed or criticized. So, she kept her writing hidden, locked away where it felt safe but unfulfilled. I looked at her and asked, "What would boldness look like for you right now?" She paused, thought for a moment, and then said, "I think it would mean sharing my writing, maybe even trying to get published." 6 months later, I received an email from her. She had started a blog, finally sharing her stories with the world. And the response? It was overwhelming. People were connecting with her words. They were inspired, moved, and eager for more. She had found her voice, and more importantly, her audience. A year after that, she signed her first book deal. And 2 years later, she was a full-time author with a loyal and growing readership. What changed? Not her talent. She had always been a gifted writer. What changed was her boldness. She finally took that leap of faith, dared to believe in her own voice, and the world responded. Life had been waiting to reward her, but it required her first to show up with courage. Now, I want to be clear, boldness isn't always rewarded instantly. Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes you have to be bold more than once, to keep showing up even when there's no applause at first. Sometimes the first bold move doesn't land, and you need to pivot, to learn, and to try again with a wiser, stronger kind of boldness. But here's what I know with certainty. A life without boldness is a life only half lived. It's filled with quiet regrets, of opportunities missed, dreams deferred, and chances never taken. It's the what-ifs and the if-onlys that haunt us far more than the mistakes we made while trying. Because when we reach the end of our lives, the deepest regrets aren't usually about the things we did. They're about the things we didn't do. The moments when fear won, when we stayed quiet, when we waited instead of stepping forward. I don't want that for you. I want you to live a life that's full of purpose, full of action, full of boldness. I want you to chase your dreams with courage, to lean into the unknown with curiosity and hope. Because it's on the other side of uncertainty where the greatest rewards are found. Life is simply too short for small dreams and cautious living. You were made for more. You were designed to leave an imprint, to contribute, to grow, to inspire. And to do that, you need boldness. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking, "Jim, that's great for others, but I'm just not a bold person. That's not my nature." Let me challenge that belief. Boldness isn't a personality trait. It's a decision. It's not about being loud or aggressive or extroverted. It's about choosing to act in the face of fear. It's something anyone can cultivate. Yes, even the most quiet and reserved individuals. I've witnessed some of the most introverted, soft-spoken people do incredibly bold things. Not because they weren't scared, but because they connected with something greater than their fear. They found a purpose worth fighting for, a mission worth risking for, a dream too important to ignore. So the real question isn't, are you a bold person? The real question is, what are you willing to be bold for? What idea, what vision, what part of you is waiting to be brought to life? So what is that goal or purpose that matters so deeply to you that you'd be willing to stretch beyond your comfort zone to achieve it? That's the key. Because once you connect with something that truly matters, something that stirs your heart and demands your best, boldness has a way of rising naturally within you. It's not forced. It flows from conviction. Now, there's another objection I often hear, and maybe you've thought it yourself. But Jim, what if I'm bold and I fail? And to that, I always say, so what? Seriously. So what if you do? Failure isn't the end. It's not a death sentence. Failure is feedback. It's part of the path. It's not a reflection of who you are. It's simply something that happened. And it happens to everyone. Failure is the toll you pay on the road to success. Every person who's ever accomplished anything significant has encountered failure, many times over. Take Thomas Edison, for example. He failed literally thousands of times before finally inventing the light bulb. Henry Ford went bankrupt before building one of the most iconic car companies in history. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her very first television job, told she wasn't fit for TV. And yet, she became one of the most influential figures in global media. What sets these people apart isn't that they never failed. It's that they kept going. They refused to let failure be the last word. They understood that setbacks are not signs to stop, but signs to grow. Every failure contains a lesson, if you're bold enough to look for it. There's a simple but profound truth that bold individuals understand. Life rewards action, not intention. You can want something with all your heart, but unless you act, it remains a wish. You can write out a beautiful goal, but if you don't take the first step, it's just ink on paper. Dreams are powerful, but they only become reality through bold, consistent effort. The universe doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you do. And every bold action you take sends ripples outward. It not only shifts your reality, but often influences others around you. People you may not even realize are watching and being inspired. Let me share something that's been transformative in my own journey. The idea of the bold moment. A bold moment is that instant when you find yourself at a critical crossroads. You can play it safe, or you can take a risk. You can choose to speak up, or you can stay silent. You can step forward, or you can shrink back. These moments don't always arrive with fanfare. In fact, they often come in everyday situations, subtle, easy to overlook. But how you respond to them, that response can completely shift the direction of your life. Here's something fascinating about bold moments. They're usually accompanied by a physical sensation. Maybe your heart races, your palms get sweaty, you feel a tightening in your chest or a flutter in your stomach. That's not fear trying to paralyze you. It's your body signaling that you're standing at a threshold, a choice point. Most people interpret these signals as a warning to retreat, to avoid discomfort. But what if those feelings were actually an invitation? What if they were your internal compass, pointing you towards something meaningful? What if, instead of seeing those physical sensations as a sign to retreat, you viewed them as an indication that you're standing at the edge of something meaningful? Over the years, I've trained myself to interpret those signals, not as fear to avoid, but as excitement to embrace. That flutter in my stomach before stepping on stage, that tightening in my chest before a difficult conversation, that quickened heartbeat before a big decision. Those are all signs that I'm about to grow. I tell myself, this is a bold moment. This is where transformation begins. And you can train yourself the same way. Once you start looking for these bold moments, you'll realize they're everywhere, hidden in plain sight. With time and practice, you can shift your relationship with them. You'll stop shrinking back and start leaning in. You'll move from avoidance to anticipation. Boldness will no longer feel like a threat. It will feel like an invitation. Now, let's explore something just as vital. Boldness requires clarity. You see, it's incredibly hard to be bold when you're uncertain about what you really want or why you want it. Confusion breeds hesitation. But clarity gives you direction, power, and purpose. The more clearly you understand your goals, values, and reasons, the easier it becomes to act boldly. Let me offer you a simple but powerful journaling exercise I call the 3 questions. Find a quiet space, open your journal, and ask yourself, 1, what do I truly want? Not what others expect of me. Not what I've been told I should want. But deep down, what do I genuinely desire for my life? 2, why do I want it? What's the deeper reason behind this desire? How does it align with my values? How will it contribute to my sense of purpose and meaning? 3, what am I willing to do to get it? What bold actions am I prepared to take? What comfort am I ready to leave behind? What risks am I willing to embrace? Answering these questions with full honesty brings incredible clarity. It helps you direct your boldness where it actually matters. Because here's the truth. Boldness without purpose is just noise. It's recklessness in disguise. But boldness rooted in clarity and purpose, that's the kind of force that can't be stopped. There's another essential piece to this puzzle: resilience. Being bold once is one thing, but to be bold consistently, especially when things don't go your way, when you face criticism, rejection, or failure, that's where true strength lies. That's where lasting transformation begins. Resilience is your ability to get back up, to adapt, to learn, to grow stronger with each challenge. It's what turns boldness from a one-time act into a lifestyle. And how do you build that kind of resilience? Through experience, through falling down and choosing to rise again, through developing mental toughness, focusing on what you can control and releasing the things you can't. One practice that's helped me time and again is what I call the worst-case scenario exercise. When you're standing at the edge of a bold decision, ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? Be honest. Face it head on. Then ask yourself, could I handle that worst-case outcome? More often than not, you'll realize the answer is yes. And once you realize that, suddenly, the fear loses its grip. It becomes manageable, not monstrous. The bold don't act because they're fearless. They act because they've learned they can survive the fallout and grow from it. And there's one more thing that doesn't get talked about enough when it comes to boldness: timing. Being bold doesn't mean being reckless or impulsive. It's not about jumping into something blindly without thought or preparation. Boldness is not ignorance of context. It's wisdom in action. Sometimes the boldest move isn't leaping today. Sometimes it's waiting. It's preparing. It's building your foundation so that when the right moment comes, you're ready to strike with power and precision. Think for a moment about a surfer sitting on their board, scanning the horizon. He's not timid because he doesn't chase every little ripple. He's strategic. He knows that not every wave is worth riding. He's conserving his energy, waiting for the right wave, the one with power, momentum, and potential. That, too, is a form of boldness. It's the boldness to be patient, to bide your time, and to wait with purpose. But, and this is essential, when that wave finally arrives, when the right opportunity comes your way, you have to act, not with hesitation or doubt, but with clarity and commitment. No second guessing, no stalling, just bold, decisive action. The key lies in discernment, knowing when to move forward and when to hold back, knowing when it's time to speak up and when it's time to listen. That kind of wisdom doesn't come overnight. It comes from experience, reflection, guidance from mentors, and deep self-awareness. Speaking of self-awareness, there's something else we need to understand. Boldness doesn't look the same for everyone. Your boldness doesn't need to resemble mine or anyone else's. It needs to be a true reflection of you, of your unique personality, strengths, and purpose. For one person, boldness might mean speaking to a packed auditorium. For another, it might mean having a tough, honest conversation with a loved one. For some, it could be starting a new business or launching a project. For others, it might be walking away from a relationship that no longer serves their well-being. Boldness might look like picking up a paintbrush after decades of silence, or defending someone who has no voice. What form it takes is less important than why you're doing it. What truly matters is that you're stretching beyond your comfort zone, choosing growth over safety, and aligning your risks with your values. Boldness, at its core, is not about the act itself. It's about the intention behind it. So don't let anyone else define what being bold should look like in your life. Only you know the steps you're scared to take. Only you can feel when something pushes the edge of your courage. Honor that, trust that, and be bold in a way that's true to who you are. Now, let's explore a special kind of boldness, one that I believe is more important now than ever: the boldness to be yourself. We live in a world that's constantly pushing us to fit in, to conform, to follow the crowd, and mask our uniqueness. In this climate, being authentic is nothing short of revolutionary. As Oscar Wilde once said, "Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken." It sounds simple, but it's not always easy. It takes real courage to stand in your truth, especially when your voice trembles or when your values are unpopular. But here's the reward. When you're bold enough to be who you truly are, you begin to attract the right people, the right opportunities, and the right experiences into your life. At the same time, you naturally repel the wrong ones, the distractions, the pressures, the shallow approval of others. Living boldly as your true self allows you to build a life of substance, one that's rooted in authenticity rather than constantly shifting to please others. Over the years, I've met so many individuals who appeared successful by society standards, yet felt empty on the inside because they were living someone else's version of success. They were achieving goals that didn't belong to them. They had all the outward signs of success: the impressive title, the beautiful house, the sleek car, the healthy bank account. But inside, they felt lost and unfulfilled. Why? Because somewhere along the way, they stopped being true to themselves. They traded authenticity for approval, purpose for prestige. And that, my friend, isn't success. That's a silent tragedy. Real success doesn't come from following someone else's script. It comes from having the boldness to define success on your own terms. It's the courage to pursue the dreams that truly matter to you, not the ones designed to impress others. It's the audacity to live in alignment with your values, even if they clash with the expectations of those around you. And that kind of boldness, the boldness to be unapologetically yourself, may just be the most rewarding kind of all. But boldness doesn't stop there. Let's go even deeper. There's another powerful dimension of boldness that often goes unspoken: the boldness to help others. It's one thing to be bold in pursuit of your own goals, to fight for your own dreams. That's important and it's honorable. But there's a higher calling, a more expansive form of courage that asks you to be bold on behalf of someone else. This might mean speaking out against injustice when it would be easier to stay silent. It can mean offering mentorship to someone who's searching for direction, or opening doors for those who've been overlooked. It might look like giving generously to a cause you believe in, or using your platform to elevate the voices of those who are rarely heard. When your boldness expands beyond your own life, when it becomes a force that uplifts, protects, and empowers others, that's when you shift from success to significance. That's when your life begins to leave an impact that stretches far beyond your own story. And that's where true legacy is built, not in what you accumulate, but in what you give away. I've always believed that the truest measure of a well-lived life isn't found in how many people serve you, but in how many people you serve. It's not about what you've received. It's about what you've contributed. And here's the beautiful part. Serving others with boldness doesn't drain your spirit. It fills it. It gives purpose to your victories, meaning to your challenges, and value to your journey. But make no mistake, serving others boldly requires real courage. It often means taking risks, stepping into the unknown, and stretching beyond your comfort zone. Yet the rewards? They're immeasurable, not just for the people you help, but for you, because nothing compares to the feeling of knowing your boldness made someone else's life better. So as you continue to grow in your own boldness, I challenge you to look outward. Find ways to be bold for others. Use your voice, your gifts, your influence, and your resources to lift someone else up. That's the kind of boldness that creates ripples across generations. That's the kind of boldness the world needs more of. That kind of impact, that ripple effect of change, is boldness at its best. But here's a question I get asked all the time. Jim, how do I sustain boldness over the long run? How do I stay bold when I feel tired, discouraged, or even overwhelmed? And honestly, it's a powerful question, because true boldness isn't just about those one-time heroic moments. It's about making boldness a way of life. And like any lifestyle, it takes intention, consistency, and support. Let me share a few strategies that I've found especially useful when it comes to staying bold over time, even when the initial excitement wears off or when obstacles start piling up. First, make it a habit to celebrate your bold actions, no matter the outcome. Did you speak up? Take the risk? Make the call? Good, celebrate it. When you pause to acknowledge your courage, you reinforce the behavior. You train your brain to associate boldness with a sense of reward, not just with uncertainty or fear. Over time, this reinforcement helps boldness become second nature. Second, choose your circle wisely. Surround yourself with bold people. You probably heard me say before, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I meant it. If you want to be consistently bold, spend time with people who challenge the status quo. People who take risks, who dream big, who act decisively. Their courage will inspire yours. Their energy will lift yours. Their actions will push you to rise to the occasion. Third, keep reconnecting with your why. Why did you choose to be bold in the first place? What purpose are you fighting for? What dream or vision are you chasing? Life gets busy, and it's easy to lose sight of that deeper motivation. But when you anchor your boldness to something that truly matters to you, your values, your mission, your personal vision, it fuels you through the hard days. It gives you the reason to push forward, even when you don't feel like it. Fourth, take care of yourself. Seriously, boldness takes energy. It draws from your physical strength, your mental clarity, your emotional resilience, and even your spiritual well-being. If you're constantly running on empty, boldness becomes incredibly difficult to sustain. So protect your energy. Get enough sleep. Eat in a way that nourishes you. Move your body, quiet your mind, and do the things that fill your tank, whatever they may be. Because a bold life needs a strong foundation. And fifth, never stop learning. Growth feeds boldness. The more you learn, the more you expand your thinking. The more confident you become, the easier it is to take action. So read books that challenge you. Attend seminars that spark new ideas. Seek mentors who can stretch your thinking. Join communities that support growth. The more you grow, the bolder you naturally become. Remember this. Boldness isn't a destination you reach one day and say, "I've arrived." It's a journey, a daily practice. Some days you'll feel bold and courageous. Other days you'll feel hesitant or unsure. That's normal. And some areas of your life may feel easier to be bold in than others. And that's okay too. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is progress. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. Just keep taking bold steps, one after another, and over time, those small steps will add up. Before you know it, you'll have created a bold life, a life filled with meaning, impact, and far fewer regrets. And that's what really matters in the end, isn't it? Now, as we begin to wrap up our time together, I want to leave you with a challenge. Actually, not just one, but three. Three practical, powerful ways to begin practicing boldness right now, starting today. Challenge number one. Do one thing today that both scares and excites you. That thing you've been putting off? That idea that's been whispering in your mind, waiting for a chance to breathe? Whether it's making that phone call, speaking up in a meeting, reaching out to someone new, or finally starting a passion project. Take the first step, not tomorrow, not next week, today. Because hesitation kills more dreams than failure ever will. Challenge number two. For the next 30 days, keep a boldness journal. At the end of each day, write down one bold action you took. It doesn't have to be earth-shattering or dramatic, just something that nudged you beyond your comfort zone. Maybe you shared your opinion when you normally wouldn't. Maybe you asked a question, took initiative, or said yes to something unfamiliar. The act of recording these daily wins will shift your mindset. Over time, you'll begin to see yourself differently, as someone who takes bold action consistently. You'll build that boldness muscle, and it will grow stronger with every entry. Challenge number three. Find someone who needs your boldness. Yes, you heard that right. Someone out there could benefit from your courage, your voice, your action. Maybe it's a colleague who's been overlooked and needs someone to advocate for them. Maybe it's a cause you care deeply about that needs a champion. Or maybe it's a friend going through a hard time who just needs someone to believe in them. Be bold on their behalf. Use your strength to lift someone else. Because the highest form of boldness is when we use it not just for ourselves, but in service of others. If you take on these three challenges, I can say with confidence, your life will begin to change. You'll start to notice doors opening that were once invisible. You'll begin to experience a new level of confidence, of courage, of clarity. And you'll start creating results you never imagined were possible. Because yes, life does reward the bold. Not always in the ways we expect. Not always on the timeline we hoped for. But always in ways that shape us, stretch us, and grow us. Always in ways that deepen our experience of being alive. I believe in your ability to be bold. I believe in your potential to lead a life of greatness. Not someday, but starting now. I believe that within you is everything you need to build a life that's meaningful, fulfilling, and truly extraordinary. The only question left is this. Do you believe it too? And if you do, what bold action will you take today to start turning that belief into reality? Turn your belief into reality. It's not enough to simply listen to these words, to nod in agreement, or to be inspired for a moment and then go back to your comfort zone. Knowledge alone isn't power. It's only potential power. Real power comes from action. Bold, decisive action. That's what changes your life. That's what transforms your circumstances. So as you walk away from this message today, I want to challenge you to pause and reflect deeply. What does boldness mean for you right now in this chapter of your life? What's the bold move you've been avoiding? What decision have you been putting off? What dream have you allowed fear to keep locked inside you? Maybe it's having that honest conversation, launching that business idea, or simply believing that you're capable of more. Whatever it is, don't wait. Summon the courage. Take the first step. Make the decision you've been postponing. Chase the dream you've buried. Because just on the other side of that bold action lies everything you've been searching for: growth, opportunity, impact, self-respect, and real results. Life rewards the bold not because they are more talented, more fortunate, or more deserving, but because they act. They show up. They step forward when others hold back. They take more swings, ask more questions, pursue more ideas, and create more chances for success, simply because they're willing to face the possibility of failure. As Theodore Roosevelt once said so powerfully, it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles. The credit belongs to the one who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. So today, I leave you with this. Be in the arena. Don't sit on the sidelines of your own life. Be bold. Dare greatly. And you'll begin to see, perhaps for the first time, just how true it is that life truly does reward the bold. Wishing you strength, growth, and all the courage you need. Until next time, I hope you stay healthy, stay inspired, and don't forget to subscribe to Mindset Daily for more life-changing motivation.